Welcome back to The Jump. I'm George Sedano, in for Rachel Nichols, here with Coach David Fizdale and Ramona Shelburne. Unfortunately for the rest of the league, the Lakers' championship hangover only lasted for one game. The champs had 2 blowout wins this weekend. They beat the Mavs by 23 on Christmas Day. And then the 36-point win against the Timberwolves with Anthony Davis resting a calf strain on the first half of a back-to-back last night. So, Ramona, what impressed you the most about the Lakers this weekend?
You know, I like their new guys. I like the way that Marc Gasol looked, especially last night. He just gives them such a different dimension to the way that they played last year. Like, he's such a great passer. And one of the things that LeBron James always talks about is playing with high IQ players, right? That was why he bonded so well with Rajon Rondo last year. Marc Gasol is exactly that kind of player. And it kind of reminds me, Fizz, you tell me if I'm off base, okay? Kind of reminds me of what Kevin Love did for the Cavs when LeBron was there. Big man who could space the floor, great passer. That outlet pass last night was like unbelievable. That's something Kevin would do. And it's just a dimension they didn't have last year that I think opens up a whole other side of their offense.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I even think Marc is another level passer than even Kevin Love. Like, Marc is, he sees the game how LeBron sees the game, but he does it from the center position. And that's what I think makes him so unique for their team. So even LeBron, as we try to watch to see if he's going to age at all, watch how many easy layups and dunks he gets, so his numbers won't look like he's aging at all, because Marc is going to be able to get him easy baskets. Schroeder is going to be able to get him easy baskets, and we got to see that over the course of these games. I think the other thing that really impressed me about them was how they played without AD, and I think that's something that, you know, when I watched the Clippers without Kawhi, watching them without AD, that's going to be the tale of these teams, because somebody's always going to lose a stud. Can they keep the train rolling without that guy? And the Lakers showed that it is important to them to try to win it again. They were disappointed with that one loss, but they came back with a fury over the next 2 games. And I think we saw a picture of what they're going to be all year.
I mean, Marc Gasol in the high post, Fizz, you and I talked about this just last week. I mean, he is unstoppable from there. Like, his vision, his court vision is great. He can play quarterback, honestly. Like, he can fit the ball in such tight windows. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, I'm glad you brought up the thing about LeBron.
7-foot quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. Right. The thing about LeBron, there's this notion that, well, LeBron needs the ball in his hands and playing with another playmaker is a deterrent. On the contrary, if you look at LeBron's career, even when he was younger, when he had another playmaker around him to make life easier for him, he excelled. You know, whether it was Dwayne Wade, Kyrie Irving, you name it. There's a lot of guys there that move the ball to help him as well. He's obviously as unbelievable a passer as we've ever seen play the game. Him and Magic Johnson are in that conversation. But he certainly benefits from having those kind of guys.
Yeah, and you look at, like, Dwayne used to get you know, length the court stuff when young LeBron wanted to outrun everybody. Now in the half court, Marc is going to be able to get them back cuts, you know, little easy spin outs and things like that that only a Marc Gasol or a Jokic type player can make. Those are the only kind of guys that can make those passes. And the way that Frank runs his offense, where he really gets the other guys to commit to moving without the ball, everything is with energy. Marc Gasol is going to make them so hard to beat as they move forward.
Yeah, and it has unlocked Kyle Kuzma, as we've talked about. Ramona, Kuz has played well with Marc Gasol out there on the floor. Like, he just signed a new extension, and I think that this is – look, if he starts performing like we've seen here in the last game or 2, then all of a sudden that thing looks like a steal, doesn't it?
I mean, I thought the contract itself looked like a steal when it was, you know, 3 years, $40 million. I mean, I think he had visions of, you know, 60, 70 million, okay, when they were first talking. So for them to get him at that price, and it also takes away, I think, a lot of the drama around Kyle Kuzma, which was going to be a storyline and a sense of and a pressure for him and the Lakers all year long, because if they didn't do that extension, he was going to be eligible for restricted free agency. Obviously, there's always tension with him because he sees himself as a starter. Last night he got to start. Okay, he was the guy who went into the starting lineup, and I thought he looked great. He always plays great when he starts because he's got something to prove. But now you can relax a little bit. He got paid. It may not have been as big as what he wanted, but he still is getting $40 million the next 3 years. And I think for Kuz, it lets him settle into whatever role he's going to carve out for himself without every single game being a referendum on, are they going to give him a contract? Is he worth it? How much is he worth?
Right.
All right, another team that turned things around this weekend, the Warriors. Steph Curry led a late comeback over the Bulls with 13 points in the fourth. That set up a huge three from Damian Lee in the final seconds that we saw earlier. So, Coach, it's just one win, but does Curry's hot quarter change your opinion on the Warriors?
Unfortunately, no. I think this is, with Wiseman being the rookie, and it's not to knock him, but without Clay, without Draymond on the court right now, it's this team from last year with a rookie. Who was very impressive, by the way, this kid Wiseman. But I just think the West is too stacked. It doesn't change their position at all. And until they get healthy, I think they're going to be fighting an uphill battle.
Look, they really miss Draymond Green, George, and I think that he's coming back sooner rather than later. But just his playmaking ability, his passing, his leadership defensively. Wiseman looks good, but he looks a little lost defensively. We've seen some of that in the first few games here. But I think it was good for Steph to get going because he has not shot the ball well until last night. Like, he hasn't had that Steph Curry efficiency. He's the only one they're worried about, and so he's drawing everybody's best shot. I mean, there's three guys on him all the time. But when Draymond's out there, they're going to be a little more balanced. I was wondering what the Warriors would look like this year in terms of, are they a team that goes from, 15 wins last year to contending for a 7 or 8 spot in the West? From what we've seen in the first few games, I would say no. I would agree. I don't think that they are looking like anything like a playoff team, but I want to wait on my judgment of them because they have to figure out a whole new way to play. They've got to figure out how to put Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins into spots where they can give them advantages offensively. Because so far those two guys have looked a little lost in that Warriors offense, and they're spending a lot of money on both of them. So I think Steve Kerr's job is to figure out how to put them in positions where they have an advantage offensively and they can contribute better.
Yeah, and I do think, and I agree with you wholeheartedly in regards to where they are. I mean, I think, and I said this to start the season after Clay got hurt, I think that they may be in that play-in situation. I think that could be what they're looking at right now. Look, maybe they can slide up a little further, but I doubt it. Like, I have them maybe in that kind of 7 to 10 range, probably closer to 10, to be honest with you, with a stacked Western Conference. Yeah. But the Draymond stuff is interesting because I do think, Ramona, that does help them, right? Not only someone who can move the ball, another person who can help put those guys in positions to succeed out there with Steph, but he brings a toughness aspect to it, right? A mental toughness and just a physical toughness as well. A guy who's Today's opening tip, the Spurs Coyote is the 2020 NBA mascot of the year, at least according to the Spurs Twitter account. So, Fizz, how much did you notice the mascots when you were coaching?
Well, I try not to pay any attention to them, but there are some things that they do is just so ridiculously funny, man, that you just, even if you're trying to be serious as a coach, man, you see it and you just lose it. And some of those guys are super talented, man. They are athletic. They bounce off trampolines. They do a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. Shout out to the Coyote. Shout out to Bernie from the Heat.
Benny the Bull. Benny the Bull, though?
Yeah, Benny the Bull. I just mentioned them. I just gave him some love. Those are like my top 3 right there. Ramona Shelburne hanging out with us. Yeah. Welcome into the Jump Up. George Sedano in for our fearless leader, Rachel Nichols. Today, I'm joined by our resident coach, David Fisdale, and our senior NBA writer and insider, Ramona Shelburne, who you just heard. Coming up, James Harden returned to the court and made a statement with his play over the weekend. We'll react to his 44 points and 17 assists in his season debut and discuss what it means going forward. But first, it's time to play one of our favorite games here on The Jump, right out of the gate, too. Something, nothing, or everything. So let's start in Los Angeles. The Clippers lost by 51 points yesterday. I repeat, the Clippers lost by 51 points yesterday. They were without Kawhi Leonard, who was out. Here is Paul George after the game.
I take full responsibility. It's a tough game coming from Christmas. I enjoyed my Christmas day. I enjoyed my Christmas day yesterday. Today just popped up on me a little too fast. I'll take full ownership of that, of coming out and being prepared to play today. Be a different situation come next game, and, we'll be ready. Make sure our group will be ready.
Okay, so Coach Fizz, trailing by 50 at halftime, losing by 51 overall. Is that something, nothing, or everything?
Oh, that's something. You can't just discount losing by 50. I know Coach Lou was digging deep into that bag, trying to pull all his tricks out to get the team riled up and get them moving, but that turkey was sitting on them and all of those fixings and everything. So, I think the good thing about this is Paul George took ownership of it, and he had an opportunity to show that he could lead this team without Kawhi, and he missed that opportunity. He'll probably have it again. But that's why I think it's something, because he has to be able to take this team and carry it for stretches during the season, and that's going to be very important.
Look, I think it's nothing. I understand it looks terrible, but this is the third game of the year. They've looked great so far. They didn't have Kawhi, and when Paul George basically, he just flat out said, "Look, I enjoyed my Christmas. I enjoyed it a little too much." Okay, it sounded like he got back from Denver and had a good time, right? And to me, it's like, look, you own that, and I like that he said I own that. I like that he said we had a little Christmas hangover there, and this happens. Like when you get down real early, this game was out of hand in the first quarter. I mean, I kept seeing the scores, and I was like, ooh, that looks really bad. And usually, if you close that gap by halftime, there's a chance it's not going to be ugly like that. But, I mean, the second half was even. I don't know. I'm trying to find a bright side for him, but I think it's nothing. I think it's just a ball race kind of game.
Good job, Coach.
All right, I'm going to go in the middle here between you two. I'm going to create a new version. I know it's something, nothing, or everything, but I'm going to go snothing, okay? Snothing. Because it is a little bit of something, and it's kind of a little bit of nothing, okay? Right. Because it is the third game of the season, but my God. You can't be embarrassed like that at home. Right. I don't care you had a Christmas hangover. I don't care how much turkey you had, how much ham you had, how many fixings you had. Listen, there's not enough tryptophan in the world to make you sleepwalk through that game the way they sleepwalk through that. So that is an embarrassing situation. So I'm going to go and create a new category and call it snothing. All right. Next, the Brooklyn Nets suffered their first loss of the season to Charlotte last night. They also lost starter Spencer Dinwiddie, who went down with a partially torn ACL. We'll get to Dinwiddie's injury in just a moment. But first, Fizz, is the loss to the Hornets last night something, nothing, or everything?
To Brooklyn, it's only something because they lost Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, he's a critical piece to their overall success. He's a guy that plays next to Kyrie. He's a guy that can be on the court without Kyrie running the team and getting people shots and getting his own baskets. So he's been an integral part of what they do, and so I do think that is something because they lost him. Overall, the actual game, I don't think is a big deal to them at all. It is something to the Charlotte Hornets, who's a young team. Coach Borrego did a great job in winning that game.
Yeah, I'm going to say something just because of the injury to Spencer, because I think he's one of those underrated pieces that if you've got a guy who's okay playing next to Kyrie Irving, right? Who knows how to do that already. Mm-hmm. Plus, Kyrie has not always been the most durable player. He's going to miss some time throughout his career. He's very rarely gone a season without missing at least a few games in a season. Mm-hmm. And so you lose somebody who has been a leader for you when Kyrie's been out. So I think that's something. I'm curious what that does to their thinking on trading for James Harden. I know that they have explored that. They've had conversations. They haven't gone very far. But James Harden would theoretically play next to Kyrie Irving, so just say it.
All right, I'm in agreement with you guys. I'm going to go something because of the Dinwiddie injury. The game is not really a big deal. I mean, You're going to lose 1 over 72 games. Not that big a deal. But they do have ball handling issues now when you think about it, right? After Kyrie Irving, Spencer Dinwiddie out, now you're looking at guys like Tyler Johnson, right? You're looking at guys like Bruce Brown, who are nice players and who can handle the ball a little bit, but I don't know if you want them necessarily to be your secondary ball handlers on a team with championship aspirations. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they prove me wrong, but I do think that they would probably look to add a player in that vein, right, that can help them there. Now, Ramona, let me ask you this about Dinwiddie's injury. Like, what are the possibilities? Do they explore a deal for, a secondary ball handler? It doesn't have to be James Harden. Is that something that's on the table?
I think right now you roll with what you got. I mean, you mentioned they have other guys that can play in that role. It's just that Spencer was the best of them, and so it's got to be next man up, and you see where you're standing. But I think that you're now in evaluation mode. You see what do we have, and what I've seen from the Nets so far in the first couple of games of this season is they look like a team that can win the Eastern Conference, and they look like a team that could win the entire thing if they're healthy at the right time. I think Kevin Durant's answered a lot of questions about how he was going to come back from that Achilles injury. Looks great. And so if I'm the Nets, like, this is evaluation time. And do the backups that I have here, is the next man up, is he good enough? If not, you got a couple of months to figure out what you're going to do about it. But, I don't know. I don't know if it changes their thinking in terms of James Harden. They can offer what they can offer, right? And Spencer Dinwiddie would have been part of that package. It's hard to trade an injured player. But that it does bring Brooklyn back to the forefront, at least in my mind, as a team that should look at a trade for James Harden. Because if you're in win now mode, you don't want to let an injury like that derail you.
In NBA 2K, coach, you can't trade injured players, but I guess in the league you could do it. But what do you make of what Ramona had to say there?
No, I think she makes some great points there, but I'm going to tell you, it's a kid that I coached there, Tyler Johnson, who you better not sleep on. Tyler is fearless. He's tough. He guards the ball. He's played backup point guard for us when I was in Miami. He can handle the role well. He's been seasoned and coached in multiple places now. So I do think they have a good safety net in Tyler Johnson and a guy that's going to compete. And remember, the ball is going to be in KD's hands and LeVert's hands. Simple as that. And so if a guy can get it over half court, get the ball to the right guys, and they can guard the position, they're a great filler for the Nets.
Yeah, and I think that kind of third role now, I mean, Dinwiddie was kind of feeling that out. He didn't have a huge scoring load, at least through the first couple of games of the season. But I think, you look at Karis LeVert, who's going to have to carry that burden now for sure when it comes in Kyrie. But let's move on to James Harden, Ramona, who you mentioned, who dropped 44 points and 17 times in an overtime loss to the Blazers in his season debut on Saturday. So, Momo, is Harden's big stat line in his debut something, nothing, or everything?
I almost want to take a page out of your book and go in between, okay? But I don't know how something and everything go together. Everything? We'll go like that. Look, we all know James Harden can ball out. Like, he is a great player, but sometimes it helps to be reminded of that. Right? We haven't seen that since the bubble. We haven't seen him play and have a game like that where they're obviously down a lot of players. It was like James versus everybody. Okay, like they didn't have and they were playing a really good team up there in Portland. And so to me, like, him showing out like that, especially coming off the issues that he had, right, where he obviously was a huge distraction to the team. It was negative press for him, negative press for the team. I've talked about this with a lot of folks around the league. Has James Harden hurt his trade value by the way that he has acted off the court? I don't think so. From my understanding, George, the offers for James are good. There are several of them. One person told me there's at least 6 teams that have made offers that are very interested in Harden. So to me, I don't think anything's hurt his trade value, but it's always good to remind people how good you are.
Absolutely. No, I think it's something as well. I think anytime you get to see that talent back on the court, and you can just see that even when he's a little distracted with all of the stuff that's going on, that's how good he is. He's still better than most players in the NBA, and he almost went up there to Portland and beat a really good Portland team. I haven't really praised Portland to the level that I should, but with Nurkic on the court, they look like a different team a lot of times. And so with James going up there and almost willing that victory, the reason I say it's something is because you are going to get Wall back and you're going to get Boogie back. And if they can get those 3 talents to play together where James is enjoying it and they are winning games, maybe Houston can reel them back in and get them back into the fold. That's going to be a tall task, but I think that's why it's something, is because he's back on the court and those other 2 guys are coming back soon.
Yeah, I agree, and I would also go something. But here's the thing, not to mention, let's not forget about Christian Wood, who also balled out in that game, and the Rockets paid a nice chunk of change to bring him to that roster. I think that's a kid also that you have to look at. I know a lot of executives perhaps looked at him and said, well, he's putting up big numbers on bad teams or whatever. But this kid can play, legitimately can play, and I think he can help that team. And I don't know, Momo, what do you think? Is there any chance that Houston could reel him back in, or is that ship sailed?
I'm never going to say never, okay? Because I firsthand covered a team like that here in Los Angeles when Kobe Bryant wanted to be traded to literally anywhere but the Lakers back in 2007. I mean, he was, trade me to Pluto. I think that was the line that he used. So it has happened in the past. I don't think it's going to happen here. I think James wants to be traded. I think that's very clear. And I think all this does is remind his suitors, who, by the way, there are already, I'll say it again, at least 6 teams that I know have inquired about him. I think they already want him. It's about negotiating right now. And somebody very close to the situation told me last night, like, let's see what this does to the offers over the next week or two, and to see how they improve. Not just by one game, he has to sustain this, okay? But this was a nice reminder, and I do think James still wants to be moving on and going someplace else. It's just a question of whether the Rockets can find a trade to their liking.
All right, and we'll move on as well. Coming up, the Knicks had a hilarious jersey malfunction over the weekend. Even when they get a win, man, we got to clown the Knicks for some reason, which inspired us to cook.
It's a make-or-miss league.
Yeah, it is. Make, fright, Scary Terry gets the pass here from LaMelo Ball and packs it up. Kevin Durant. He had a nice dunk against Brooklyn a few years ago, too. Fizz, why does Terry save his best for the Nets?
Come on, man. You know, the best bring out the best. That's what happens. And, KD is going to happen sometimes because he's always going to go after it. And that's what I like about KD. But nice, Scary Terry. Way to go up and punch it.
Scary Terry playing really well thus far this season. Next, Miss the Grinch. Magic and Wiz off the miss. Thomas Bryant, he dunks it. Watch this. For the other team. Ooh. Ramona, is he still feeling that holiday spirit, you think?
I just think it was just like basket and rim. He was going up for the rebound. I don't know. Sometimes you just look at the wrong plays. I felt bad for him when that happened. He knew it as soon as he did it,
Still giving gifts.
Come on, man. What happened there? You got to know that's not your side. That reminds me of like Ricky Davis. Do you remember Ricky Davis went for that triple-double and tried to do the rebound off the backboard, off his own backboard that one time? Good Lord. All right, next. Make surprises. Dubs down 2. They can't get it into Steph. So Damian Lee, check this out, calls an audible and hits the game winner.
I love it.
Ramona, good sign for the Dubs or what?
Man, they needed a win. I'm telling you, they looked so bad in their first couple of games. Like, they needed something right there, and I thought that was a really big shot right there because nobody had him as shooting that last shot, right?
No. Fizz, you didn't
not at all. But I do like that. You can see within the play that he was an option in it. That was a fluid action. People are going to take Steph away right now. Yeah. There's no Clay, no Draymond Green out on the court. That's a big shot for a young kid, and he came off ready to shoot, so I like it.
As Shaq likes to say, sometimes the others need to step up. That's one of the others. All right, Miss Greed. Marc Gasol started in place of AD. He dished out 8 assists in 21 minutes. Fizz, you coach the man. How much better does he make the Lakers?
Oh, scary good. Think about it. They were playing with 2 power centers who usually hurt spacing. Now you got a guy who can play from all ranges, getting people easy baskets. And I'm telling you, Kyle Kuzma is going to eat with Marc Gasol. We're going to see him play out that contract. And the Lakers made a great decision in giving him that money because he got Schroeder and Gasol to make him look better.
Yeah, certainly Kyle Kuzma looked great in that game as well, courtesy of Marc Gasol, as you mentioned. We move on. Make dysfunction. Guess what? The Knicks did something funny. Reggie Bullock and Mitchell Robinson both had the same number 23 on the back of their jerseys. Bullock had his correct number 25 on the front, but somehow it didn't match the back. So, Ramona, how the hell does something like that happen?
Look, there is an equipment manager somewhere, okay, who is finding a new job. Right? Like that. I can tell this happens. They sew the jersey numbers on all the time. They don't always have the same jerseys, right? Like they go through different jerseys, and you could just see how you're going fast. It's 23. It's 25. Like it happens. It shouldn't.
All right, time to run it back. The best wardrobe malfunctions ever in the NBA. So no Janet Jackson or anything like that. All right. I was there for that Super Bowl, by the way. Completely missed it. While I was there. Honorable mention from 2013. Somebody's toddler wanders onto the court during the postgame. And Ramona, you and I, and now Fizz can attest to this, in their diaper.
Wasn't that Kendrick Perkins' son? Was that Kendrick?
That might have been.
I want to say that was Lil Kendrick.
Might have been Lil
There
Kendrick.
are just times when you're like, whatever, I'm not even going to put pants on you. It's fine.
Next, Lucas Nogueira decides to put his pants down while Derek Favors is at the foul line.
This is a children's program for crying out loud.
I mean, what is going on here? Good Lord. All right, another one for you. Amari in 2010 playing defense, and somehow the number on the front of his jersey gets ripped off. Look at this. In 2008, Danielle Marshall.
That's great. That is fantastic.
That's funny. Danielle Marshall in 2008 tries to check into the game without a jersey, and LeBron thinks it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. Look at this. He's like, yo, man, I didn't know I was getting back in.
He was half dressed to go home already.
2004, Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, tries to pants Paul Pierce.
Come on, Meta.
Hey, listen, you got to do what you got to do, Fizz.
Listen, the truth was the deal, so he had to do anything he could to stop. Did he make the shot?
Of course he did. Saying? Like, of course he did. The truth. And of course, someone you coached, Coach. Michael Beasley goes to check in, and he's wearing his warm-up shorts. Come on, Bees.
Be easy. What you doing, baby?
Oh,
Wait,
Bees.
the best one, though, is AD at the Olympics, where he finally gets to go in, and he doesn't have his pants on. Remember that one?
No, I know. The Olympic footage didn't cut it, but Bees had to run to the locker room there.
We don't show enough of that stuff.
I mean, for the love. I mean, Michael Beasley is he's like the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to comedy.
That's my man.
I love
Bees.
I love him.
We got to lay off Bees.
Yeah, I love him. All right. I want to turn to a much more serious topic with Karl Anthony Towns. The two-time All-Star suffered a dislocated left wrist, and according to Woj, he will not require surgery, so that's good news, and there's optimism it could be a short-term injury. He's going to be evaluated on a week-to-week basis. So, Ramona, what does this injury mean for the Wolves going forward?
Well, I mean, obviously they were off to a great start, and Karl is their guy. That's their franchise player. Yeah. And I got to be honest, like when I heard his comments after the first game when he talked about, you know, the person that you've known before is never coming back, like that person died when his mom died. I mean, that was just, he's really going through some stuff. Yeah. And I don't know how to help or any of us know what to say to Karl if you see him or something, but he's obviously going through a really hard time in his life. And, you know, we know all of the relatives he's lost to COVID-19. And so now, you know, basketball, we always like to say this thing, like basketball is a refuge, right? You're supposed to, you know, escape your issues, your problems, and now he doesn't get to do that. But I like that he corrected people. Don't assume you know how somebody's feeling, right? Where he says, yeah, no, I'm still thinking about it when I'm playing basketball. I know it affects the Wolves, but I'm just more concerned for Karl because I can just tell the man's heart is real heavy.
Yeah, it's just really a tough situation seeing him now get injured and having to push reset again on the season. You know, I had, last year with the Knicks, I had 3 guys lose a relative within a 2-week span. And just, I understand what Coach Saunders the role he has to play in trying to be there for him and really trying to galvanize the team around him. And at the same time, not putting too much on him where he's always thinking about it. Just trying to create that environment where he can escape for a little bit. But at the same time, you never get away. When you lose loved ones like he did, there's just no way. And you know, to hear what he said, like Ramona said, it was heartbreaking to hear that. And anybody that's lost a loved one that's that close to them, in fact, multiple loved ones, I mean, it's nothing you can do to bring them back. And the memory often will just, everywhere you look, is going to hit them. And so I think the team element will be great for him. And I think Coach Saunders and the staff will really be good for him and surrounding him with a lot of love.
Heartbreaking is the exact word. Look, man, and I'm not trying to, throw shade at any other family relationship, but the bond between a child and their mother is completely different. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Than anything else and any of the other family dynamics. And when you lose your mother at that young of an age, the way you lost her, man, of course, your heart breaks for him. But to your point, Fizz, I do think Coach Saunders, who understands losing a loved one, right? He lost his father way too early. And I think that, hopefully he can help uplift him in a way. And he's already kind of an uplifting type of personality to begin with. So I do feel for Karl, as Ramona said, going through such difficult times. And then you add this layer to it. it only makes it even more challenging. So all the best, obviously. ESPN and the ESPN app. Alabama takes on the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl in Arlington. That's weird for someone from LA to say. That's at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Then it's Clemson, Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. The national championship is January 11th on ESPN. 3 Eastern Conference teams have already started the season 3-0. The Pacers got there after Domantas Sabonis' game winner against the Celtics. The Cavaliers won their 3rd straight by routing the Joel Embiid-less Sixers. And the Magic beat the Wizards on both Saturday and Sunday to stay unbeaten. So, Ramona, which one of those 3 teams is the most surprising to you?
Yeah, I'm going to say the Cavs. Like, I think that their young guards, Colin Sexton's look great. Darius Garland's look great. I think they were a team that a lot of people thought was going to be another, bottom of the Eastern Conference standings again. They probably will still end up missing the playoffs, right? They got a young team, and they're not necessarily pushing to try to make the playoffs right now. But if they get off to this kind of a hot start and you start feeling yourself, you get some confidence, they can get on a roll.
Yeah, and I think the cool part for me, obviously, is seeing J.B. Bickerstaff be able to take his own team for once and not be replacing me or somebody at Houston, Coach McHale. But now this is his team that he can put his stamp on. And I know those 2 guards love him, Colin Sexton and Garland. So, and when you add Drummond to that mix, a big-time roller, big-time shot blocker, big-time rebounder with those guards, you might have something cooking. And I'm really happy to see them start off this way. The thing will be, can they consistently show up defensively, which is most young teams' Achilles heel? Can they do it every single night or consistently most nights to give themselves a chance to win?
I'm with both of you. Look, Indiana and Orlando have been playoff teams the last couple of years, so they shouldn't be a surprise that they would come off to a good start or get off to a good start. The Cavs have not been a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination over the last couple of years. And I really love this Darius Garland kid, man. I spent some time with him a little bit this offseason while I was doing some stuff here for ESPN as we were getting ready for the draft. He trained with a number of the draft prospects particularly. And I was just impressed wholeheartedly by his demeanor, his approach to the game. We know he could shoot, right? We know he can play basketball. I really feel like him and Sexton in that backcourt, man. Ooh, that is a lethal backcourt.
I got to stop calling him his dad. I keep thinking of his father so much that I'd see him on the court and I see his dad. So
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, man, but they are dynamic. They are fast and exciting to watch. And Sexton sets the tone for them defensively. You're talking about a bulldog, man. This guy gets after it. He picks the ball up. He's constantly in attack mode. So I think this is going to be a fun team to watch under JB.
All right, it wouldn't be the NBA without some minor drama, of course. And the Hawks and Grizzlies game Saturday gave it to us. Trae Young took to Twitter to question Grayson Allen's defense here, providing video evidence of a possible trip. Allen decided to respond, saying, quote, "Damn, that must have really, really hurt. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay." Biz, after watching the tape, do you think Allen tripped Trae intentionally?
I mean, if they got a little history, he might have added a little extra. It didn't look too bad on the film, but, at the end of the day, Trae, you won the game. You don't have to say nothing. You just keep winning games, and that's what it's all about, and you just walk on to the next arena. But I like the chirpiness. I like it getting a little physical, and obviously from college, those guys have been going at it.
Listen, these guys were in the same draft class, okay? 2018. So when we were covering Grayson Allen when he was at Duke, and he had issues with this. This happened several times at Duke. Mike Krzyzewski had to sit him. Remember? I mean, this is like his reputation. So that's the thing with a reputation is that there's this little something called confirmation bias. Okay, so when you have a reputation and everybody thinks that you trip people all the time, and Trae Young, by the way, was at Oklahoma when Grayson was at Duke. Okay, so when people think you have this reputation, that's all they're going to see. Whether he meant to or not, he tripped him, he fell. And so I think that fits right into how you've always seen him.
Coach, let me ask you this. Grayson Allen, he's one of those dudes you don't like to play against, but you probably want him on your team, don't you?
Hey, look, at the end of the day, Grayson Allen might not be in the league right now if he wasn't like that. And so, guys like that, they find roles on teams. They have an edge to them. They bring a competitiveness every day to practice and an intensity to the games, and his teammates probably love that stuff. But at the end of the day,